Good morning. Welcome back. Today we're going to be writing linear equations given 2 points. And based on the 20 years I've been teaching this class, I would say that this is probably one of the absolute most common test questions you get when it comes to things like I-STEP or SAT or any other kind of placement exam. They give any kind of math questions. This is one of the absolute favorite questions because it tests 3 skills at once, 3 important skills. We're going to go through all 3 of these skills together. All right, so idea is that we're going to have 2 points on a line. And again, the reason this is such an important question is because this is where we would use this in the real world. Now, obviously, in the real world, you wouldn't just give, hey, here's 2 points, 2 and -2. And it doesn't work that way in the real world. But in the real world, we connect dots of information, and we find out the pattern, and we use it to predict the future. This is how they're predicting whether or not we have rises and falls in coronavirus, is by writing equations based on given information. And this would be an example again. We could do lots of real-world problems with this type of work. All right, so let's go through the steps. Step 1, we want to find the slope, and we learned this slope formula back a few weeks ago. When we take our chapter test coming up here in a few weeks, right before Thanksgiving break, this will be one of the big questions on there, is the ability to find the slope from 2 points. All right, so to do that, we have to remember that this first point over here will be called x1 and y1 because it's the first point listed. It gets the little ones. Then the second point listed is called x2, y2. It gets those little 2's because it's the second point that's listed. Has nothing to do with the work or the problem other than that. All right, so on the top, I want to take the y2, that means the second y1 number, that's that -5 there, and I want to subtract the first y1 number, and that would be -2. And remember, there's a subtraction in the formula, that's this one I've just circled, and then there was a -5 and a -2. And when you subtract a negative, it's going to act like a plus. All right, now the denominator. I want my x2 number, which is 3, minus my x1 number, which is 2. So let's minus those. So in the numerator, again, it acts like a plus. And -5 plus 2 is going to end up being -3. And the denominator, 3 minus 2, makes 1. So when I reduce that down, it gives me a whole number of -3. So that's the first step. Find my slope. Now that I know the slope, I can use point-slope form because I have the slope and I have these 2 points. So since I have points and the slope, I use point-slope form. So in that one, I'm going to be replacing 3 of these letters with actual numbers from the work I've already completed. So the first one, I'm going to have y minus my y1 coordinate, which I've already marked that up here earlier, -2. And just like before, when you subtract a negative, that's going to end up looking like a plus. And then equals, well, m, that comes next. That's what I just found. That whole thing I just found here, that was my m, and we found it to be -3. And then parenthesis and x minus, and then that x1 number, which again comes from the beginning up here, that's the 2. All right, so that was step 2. Write it in point-slope form. Step 3, convert to slope-intercept. Slope-intercept looks like y equals mx plus b. We worked on this yesterday. This is a 2-part process. All right, so first thing I want to do here is I want to get rid of the parentheses. So that means I'm going to do y plus 2 on the left. There's no parentheses there. But on the right, -3 times x makes -3x. And then I have to multiply out the second parenthesis. -3 times -2 makes +6. All right. So again, always do parentheses first. All right. My next step then will be to get this y all by itself. And that means I'll be minusing 2 on both sides. 2 and the 2 minus 2 on the left, cancels out, and the y comes down. That's all that's left, just like I wanted. On the other side, the -3x is going to just drop straight down. And then 6 minus 2, that makes +4. So like I said, this is the kind of question that you get on SAT or I-STEP or things like that because it tests so many different things in one problem. And this would be, again, the kind of thing somebody might use in the real world. But again, somebody who does math at their job, not the dude who works at the gas station. He wouldn't use this. The truck driver, he doesn't use this. A nurse, she doesn't use this. But there's somebody who absolutely uses this. People who try to figure things out, like how much should you charge for that bag of Cheetos at the grocery store. There is somebody who has to figure all those numbers out, and this is the kind of work they would do. All right, let's try another one. All right, so we want to write the slope-intercept form of the line that passes through 2, -1, and 6, 1. So let's go through first step. First step is I want to find that slope, m. My formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So that means I want to go back and label these. This is my x1 and y1 because they're from the first ordered pair. And this is my x2, y2 because they're the second ordered pair. It's always x first, y second, alphabetical. That's why it's called an ordered pair, ABC order. All right, so I want to subtract my y. So the y2 number, 1, minus the y1 number, and that's a -1. Again, there's a minus in the formula that I've circled, and then there's a minus in the -1. And when you get two minuses in a row, those are going to act like a plus. Now denominator, x2, so that would be the 6 minus x1, which was 2. So numerator, 1 plus 1 makes 2. Denominator, 6 minus 2 makes 4. And that's going to reduce down to 1/2. Always reduce fractions. Again, you're grown. You want people to treat you like you're grown. It's time to start doing grown people things like reducing fractions. Not really. It's math. I have to talk like a nerd. Sorry. I know one's listening to this anyway. I know only like 4 of you watch the video. All right, so number 2. All right, second step, point slope form. That's the y minus y1 equals m, and then x minus x1. All right, and again, 3 of these things, the little 1 parts, and then the m I just found, those are going to be numbers. So I want to put them in. Y minus, my y1 number, that's again back up at the top. It's a -1, and it happened again. 2 negatives in a row act like a plus. And then equals m, which we found it. It's a fraction, 1/2. And then x minus my x1 number, which was 2. All right, now my third step. I need to make this thing look like y equals mx plus b. That means get the y by itself, but I always got to take care of parentheses first. So that's what has to happen first. First fraction, 1/2 times x just makes 1/2 times x. And then 1/2 times -2. Well, what is half of 2? Well, half of 2 is 1. Multiplying by 1/2 isn't hard. Now I just got to get rid of that +1 on both sides with a -1. So get rid of that +1 with -1. Again, you didn't really have to do very much with that fraction, so it wasn't too bad. And then the -1 and the -1 together makes -2. Again, you can do this, and then you have definitely mastered some of the skills that we have learned so far this year. Because this problem has just about everything in it from the things that we've done this school year so far. So again, good judge to whether or not you know what you're doing. All right, I know this is a little bit tougher. We're going to work on this one for a couple of days. All right, let me know if you need help. And again, we are going to work on this more tomorrow. If you're a little stuck on it, understand we're going to spend a couple days on this. All right, good luck.